All right, boys. ZiggyD dropped some Druid Act 1 gameplay. It's 28 minutes long. I kind of peeped it. Looks promising. It really has me hyped on Druid. But if you don't know, ZiggyD's the guy that goes out every league launch. Does the Q&A. If you've ever watched the reveals, that's old Ziggy. But anyway, shout out to Ziggy. This video is absolutely blowing up. I gotta see it. I gotta see the whole thing. So here we go. All right, his video is gonna be linked down below. Go share it, give it a like, give it a comment, boost it. Not that it needs boosting, but show the man some love, because this is the only footage we actually have of the Druid. You know, GGG loves to just give us that little
ZiggyD here with a
dookie damage shit.
Druid. We'll take a look at the shapeshifting forms, Druid spells, and how the new class plays overall.
I mean, it's not bad.
I got a chance to record this when I went to the studio to host the Q&A.
You know, it's not grenades.
For covering my flights to do so. Keep in mind that as this was recorded more than a week from launch, it's non-final, and stuff can and already has changed from what you'll see here. The new Druid archetype is flavored by the combination of elemental and nature magic combined with shapeshifting into various beast forms. It does the rare and challenging.
Is it the ancestral boost or whatever to
giving us
flams?
The potential to play a hybrid of spells and attacks. The human form is where your spellcasting happens, and your beast form
it looks so good.
Not natural, this. Air's gone sour.
When you start on the beach, this is brought home when you immediately find a staff with lightning bolt to begin spellcasting. However, that is quickly followed by looting the new melee weapon type, a talisman. Talismans function just like any other melee weapon in terms of where your damage comes from. They scale just like a mace would, for example, with increased physical damage.
The changeling.
But unique to talismans, they give you the ability to select a shapeshift form using this UI element. Werewolf and bear form is what you have initially, with Wyvern unlocking a little bit later on. This choice doesn't lock you into a form, but rather it just grants you the basic attack of the chosen form. Whenever you use one of these talisman attacks or any other shapeshift ability, you'll automatically shapeshift into that form.
Oh. So it made it seem like...
Whenever you use...
I don't know, whatever. When it was like you pick the whatever form on the weapon in the menu, I thought... But no, like you just click the whatever ability and it goes through all three. Interesting.
One of these talisman attacks or any other shapeshift ability, you'll automatically shapeshift into that form. The basic abilities of each form are fairly straightforward, with the potential for a little bit more complexity as you go and unlock other pieces that they can combo with. The Bear's Maul grants rage on hit, while the Werewolf's form, for example, creates exploding chunks of ice.
It's so seamless. Like the animations are so well done.
Reward the other shapeshift skills that you unlock later on.
Feels familiar somehow.
Each of the three forms also comes with passive effects and mechanics. The version I played was likely non-final in this regard, but for example, Bear had defensive boosts and generated endurance charges when rage was consumed, while the Werewolf gets a sizable out-of-combat movement speed buff, which you can see in its movement as it drops to all fours. You quickly also get your first actual gem on the beach here, Volcano.
Yeah, it looks way faster than what we saw. And obviously this is Act 1, so you ain't got no movement speed.
Causes an explosion and spits fire projectiles for a long duration. There's a running theme with a lot of the Druid spells that they provide some sort of ongoing benefit and that they often synergize with things that you can do while shapeshifted. This is all to support that idea of hybrid spells and melee shapeshifting, because after all, if it was something a little bit more limited, like a fireball for example, then you have to make a clear decision between whether you use a fireball or one of the shapeshifted attacks. In this case, you can place spells, they'll continue to do stuff while you're shapeshifted. Perfect.
I mean, that's already more damage than the crossbow does.
Miller with volcanoes and follow up with lightning strikes from the staff if we choose, or with our chosen shapeshift forms melee.
Done quickly.
I go for.
Dude, that's how fast a werewolf is. Literally beginning of the game with no stats. Level 1. Like, I really do want to do like an ice werewolf.
Still breathing. That's a start. Sleep now. Whatever's left of ye.
Oh yeah.
The first uncut.
Did you hear that? The dynamic voice.
The Entangle spell, Lunar Assault for Wolf, and Furious Slam for Bear. I'll test all of them as we go, don't worry, but I decided to kick off with focusing on the Bear
We've pretty much seen everything. We know they're all there.
As slam combination first. The bear's basic attack Maul generates rage on hit, and Furious Slam spends rage to empower itself with a more powerful explosive.
They just changed something to rage. It was like lose 10 rage per second if you hadn't gained or taken a hit in like 4 seconds. Now it's lose 5 rage per second, but only 2 seconds or something. Still, it's better, all right?
Version that leaves behind jagged ground.
It was thrown in one of the patch notes last night, I think.
The fact that you're spending rage also means that this constantly maintains endurance charges due to the bear's passive bonus.
I
Rage has
mean,
been simplified across the game, with rage spenders now more consistently costing
2
10
swipes and a
rage,
slam,
and a new
everything's
visual
dead.
effect shows in your character.
Like the slam one-shots all these white mobs.
These 10 rage, making you glow, even in shapeshifted forms.
This
too.
is way stronger
this
than
means
they...
that whenever you're glowing, you know that you can use a rage spender.
Okay.
Find the Devourer first up, so we get the first test of our metal a little bit early.
Aye, this reeks of the Devourer's lair.
And
I
here
don't
we
know,
get to see a
Bear's
bit
looking
of
good.
The potential power of the bear styles combos.
You'll not harm another soul.
That's good damage.
So volcanoes spit fire globs at an even pace, but slamming them causes an extra set of projectiles to fire. So placing volcanoes on bosses and bear slamming them while generating and spending rage is a simple and chunky feeling combo. And it makes pretty short work of the Devourer here.
I don't know, boys. What are we thinking? This is looking good. Not gonna lie, it's looking pretty strong.
You've gorged on the good
I gotta go Mercenary, but man, I'm gonna go Druid as soon as I'm
With the first
get a little bit
support
of
gem,
endgame
I
done.
grabbed Fist of War to empower
Fist of
the
War,
Furious
what I
Slam,
meant.
which plays very smoothly. It's perfect
Ancestral,
for
whatever.
as you naturally tend to space out the slams anyway as you move around or as you generate rage with Maul. So the double empowered slams that you get from Rage and Fist of War also very satisfying. So pretty happy with that as a first support gem choice for this playstyle. There was some other interesting options there though, such as Overabundance and Burgeon for Volcano. So Overabundance lets you have a max of 2 volcanoes out instead of 1 at the cost of 50% less duration, which I think is a pretty good idea in many cases. Brings them down to something like 4 seconds maybe.
Is a volcano
But I
a
think
channeling
that's
skill?
Very good trade-off because you can slam multiple of them down really fast, get a lot more burst on bosses, and have your slams triggering 2 volcanoes at once. So I run into my first of the League's Vile encounters around here. These are just simple
Dude,
sacrifice.
that ice swipe looks... It just freezes on impact.
Thankfully, they aren't even too strict about you needing to be in the circle. You just kill monster from the circle. So this video is primarily about the Druid. I'm not really going to be focusing too much
Like, imagine
on the
just
League
scaling
mechanics here, but
freeze.
I'll touch on my very limited experience with it. The basic premise is kill monsters from 6 circles, and then you go raid a ruined temple for loot and a bunch of crafting options to improve your gear as you level. It's fairly unobtrusive as you play through, and then you get the chance to spend a little bit more time in the actual temple to do some gear crafting. That felt pretty powerful. For now, though, I get a chance to pick up the Wolf skill, Lunar Assault, and the plant spell, Entangle, so I'll test those out in the near future.
It's actually
Entangle
not
first,
horrible.
It places a fissure that grabs nearby enemies
I mean,
to deal
you
rapid
can
small hits of physical spell damage. while
Still,
slowing
you
the
can make that
entangled
so what
foes.
it does like the 3
Skills like this are
fissures,
always really good for utility. Like
and then
oil grenades
drop
for
your little
Judge's
thunderstorm
Enemies
on it,
is
make it
really effective
rain.
on
Plant build
crossbow,
could be
anticipate, entangle,
not bad.
Feels similar here as a
Do a
utility
plant
spell.
build with
And similar
spell
to Volcano,
totems?
it's got that duration lasting benefit design. So it kind of means that regardless of your actual leveling setup, your build,
Look
you
at
can
that.
throw in some entangles for some extra damage and slowing.
That's
I'm
not
immediately
bad.
pretty impressed with the feeling of bear form for blasting bosses here. Double empowered volcano slams is very rewarding. And the hybrid gameplay option on Druid means that if you need to kind of back off for a little while, you're taking a bit too much damage, your flasks are getting run down, you can give yourself some distance and throw down some volcanoes, entangles, and later on other spells while you're recovering. I'll take the opportunity before we test some wolf form here to comment on the overall feeling of shapeshifting, and it is, thankfully,
That's
seamless.
some damage.
ZiggyD have done a really good job here of leveraging the weapon swap system, especially after they kind of changed it to not have delays and things like that. And they've done it in a way that requires zero thought on the player's behalf, which I think is really important. We've dumped a bunch of new players on the Druid here, and then you had to like teach them a bunch of complicated weapon swap mechanics and set up.
How quick he's moving in Act 1.
But you don't actually have to think about it or do anything initially to use it.
This is gonna be the new speedrun strat, Werewolf.
So spells just naturally swap you to human form, and your staff or wand, so that you can use them, right? Because they don't necessarily work otherwise. And the shapeshift abilities need the talisman, so they automatically swap to that and thus swap you into your form. There's no real delays here, and it just feels smooth and seamless, even swapping between multiple forms. And the gameplay feels pretty fast too, because that was the thing from the preview that people were concerned about. Especially in Wolf form, it feels very fast. The initial reveal, it did a good thing of like focusing on clear, low damage, low movement examples.
Yeah, like if you listen to what Ziggy's saying, like it's just, it's strong, it feels good, looks way better than reveal.
Druid, and it made it look
at that,
a bit slow and clunky.
Add the fire when he like rampages and then the cataclysm.
The biggest thing that I noticed playing it, though, that almost right away in Act 1, it was much faster and smoother than I would have thought from the footage, and that's because you're actually using things like dodge roll and sprint to reposition between attacks. And you obviously have a lot more damage than what they use in those previews. And now onto the Red Veil zone, I decided to test the early game Werewolf style a bit more. Lunar Assault is a large slash melee skill that has a very high freeze rate and cold conversion.
It looks like it can miss though, like if they're kind of like right in front of your body and you swipe around them. That might be a little goofy.
With the Ice Bite,
see how it missed him?
Big bonus cold damage buff that's up pretty much all the time with this skill, as it freezes so easily on regular mobs and even fairly easily on most bosses.
He's my Herald of Ice.
As a quick aside, I can confirm that you can be knocked down while sprinting in animal form, and I can confirm that it's just as hilarious as it normally is. Though this only happened like 2 or 3 times in the entirety of my playtime. I'm not sure if I'm just getting better at using it, or if the shapeshift forms are naturally more resistant to heavy stuns maybe. Either way, it only happened a few times. Anyway, the Werewolf doesn't have any immediate synergy with the Volcano stuff, but there's no reason to not just use them anyway. Like, you slap them down and then go into melee and tear them apart and you're getting the bonus damage, right? And it's all scaling kind of just as well as each other at this point in the game. The early combination for Wolf is using the Shred attack on enemies frozen by Lunar Assault. Shred's that basic attack for the Werewolf. It's a rapid combination strike with the final hit in 5, I believe, hitting twice. Each hit from Shred on a frozen target chips off a chunk of ice, which then explodes after a decently long delay. The typical approach for rares and bosses is to use Lunar Assault a couple times to freeze them, followed by 1 to 2 full combinations of Shred, with the icicles exploding for some pretty wild burst damage at times, especially on any sort of larger bosses. The icicles do fly backwards behind the target, but on bosses,
so you're just going like this.
Bigger ones, there's a lot
at the beginning of the game. That's
later on, and more combo pieces for the Wolf form. It's only just this kind of basic bit here, but it feels fast and satisfying, and that freeze potency is very high right off the bat. So it's a pretty good early game for the Werewolf, I felt. Honestly, for the first half of Act 1, I would say both Werewolf and Bear felt like very valid approaches with support from the spells. I don't know that I would go pure spells unless you maybe worked in something from one of the other elemental trees as well. There's no reason you can't mix and match those if you use
little pounce.
Anyway.
What is that?
Volcano and Entangle are like fairly good on their own, but you want something else on top of that as like a burst skill. Obviously, you can use the basic staff skill.
God, that looks
okay, but you could use a 3rd gem maybe to pick up a spell from the elemental tree to round it out with a bit more immediate damage if you're going for more of a pure spellcaster, for example. Since those pure druid skills are pitched at being kind of like ongoing effects that keep going as you're doing something else, so you want something else to do. So after Red Veil, the next tier of gems gives access to Shockwave Totem, Rolling Magma for the Wyvern form, it's actually a Wyvern skill, and Pounce for Wolf, and Wing Blast for Wyvern as well. So Wyvern gets 2 here because it's kind of first introduced at this point. You also like unlock the ability to swap to it on your talisman at this point, even if you've got the original talisman, I believe. I suspect maybe it's based on character level. That would make sense. So this expands your build options in quite a few ways, about 4 different directions right away. There's a lot of lines of play on the Druid here, even right at the early game. So you can Totem with Bear form for jagged ground eruptions, for example. Rolling Magma plus Volcano as a combo there for fire-focused Wyvern. The Magmas trigger the volcanoes. You can incorporate Pounce into Wolf form, which gives a bunch of benefits. And you can also grab Wing Blast for like a lightning.
Yeah, so that Pounce will activate the volcanoes as well.
Since at this point
plus Predator's Mark.
Wolf form, I grab Pounce, and this is possibly the best all-rounded skill in the entire Druid category. It's a skill of all time, I'll tell you. Big fan. It's a great movement skill.
He's like, I fucking love it. Don't nerf it. Look at that.
Which is enough to use it just by itself, but it also slams and hits a large area of effect, which can be boosted with Fist of War. It marks a target on hit, and it automatically marks the highest rarity target, so it just works. You can link your own mark later on, or you can just use the built-in Predator's mark.
You can
which
link
is
your
honestly quite good on this skill.
own mark, or
It
just
gives the
okay.
target increased damage taken. Great. It's based on the number of enemies of your enemy that it has nearby, if that makes sense. So
Not
okay,
useful for bosses.
if you and your minions are standing next to it, it takes more damage. And it also summons a wolf companion each time you trigger the mark on kill. There's other ways to trigger it later on. So it provides its own minions to trigger Predator's mark's effect anyway.
Huh.
So
Okay.
this skill does everything. Crazy. Obviously, it's a must-have in wolf form, but I used it in every single build I tested on Druid. I think if you're using a talisman in your build, you're probably going to want to use this skill. A leap initiator, mark on hit is really good for any melee playstyle, and it's good to just have unless you have like another movement skill that you really want to use instead. I can see using it. It's important here, I think, that I drive home just how you aren't locked to a form as well. Like, you may know that, but it's easy to just not really think about it. Your talisman choice is only the selection for which basic attack you have. It doesn't lock you into a form. You don't choose a form like most games like this.
Okay.
It's only
So
important
what we said in the
what
beginning.
you choose on your talisman if you actually plan to do some sort of combo with it. And I don't think every build will necessarily use the basic attack. Some of them will because they have some pretty powerful combo effects. But for example, the bear forms one just generated rage, and there's other ways to do that. Rage support gem on another skill, for example. So I can absolutely see not using the bear's basic attack for too long.
So the wolf minions
And you
just
only
spawn
use
on
the
their
werewolf
own?
one if you were planning on doing some sort of like ice.
You don't have to spec into them?
build, right? So you're absolutely free to leap in as a wolf and then proceed to bear slam everything, for example. And it took me a while to really fully take that in and incorporate that into my gameplay. I still catch myself thinking of each shapeshift form as this like own separate thing, even though I know it's not. But try and like remind yourself to take Druid a bit more holistically, right? It's if there's like a skill or passive bonus from one of the forms that you want to enable some combo or synergy with your build, then use it. Nothing stops you, right? The devs have given some guided and more obviously spelled out combos within each particular like shapeshift form or archetype. Like for example, bears more like
Free save effect, immobilization build up.
shapeshift form or archetype.
The other one.
Build, then use it. Nothing stops you, right? The devs have given some guided and more obviously spelled out combos within each particular
3% increased skill speed, 16% increased damage, strength, and intelligence. A good node. I wonder what these are. Purple. Probably spell damage. Oh.
like shapeshift form or archetype. Like for example,
I mean, considering we always start Mercenary and we have all those immobilization nodes right out of the gate, you can get the 50% increased damage against immobilized enemies, and then immobilized enemies are intimidated. And then you can also get another like 50% immobilization build up. So you get 50% immobilization build up and damage and intimidate. Oh, I don't know, man. I'm gonna have to see how I can incorporate the new nodes into my Tactician builds. And I wonder, because you remember we used to generate rage on totems and they took that away. And I think they removed the font of rage support gem. It was shit the way they did it anyway. It like leached off of the attacks your totems did and somehow gave you a boost, but it really did nothing. I wonder if we're gonna have a way to really generate rage again as a mercenary. What's, you know, there's gonna be new rage stuff, and I wonder how much rage we can stack now. See, wow, this werewolf is looking good, man.
bears more generating rage and then slam consuming it, right? Like these are pre-packaged items that we're given as obvious starting points, but there's plenty of room for cross synergies between forms and potentially even other weapon types too. Like I don't see why you couldn't like generate rage on a bear and then consume it in wyvern form for the big flame breath or something. True. Or even alternate between bear slams and human form mace slams. I'm sure there's a build there. So wolf form, which already felt really good with its high movement speed and attack speed, definitely got faster and more furious with pounce. Overall, this playstyle is a fairly straightforward melee attacker.
I mean, can we just appreciate... I mean, you know, Jonathan and Mark, they said this is basically the hardest class they've ever had to make with all the animations. But can you just appreciate how fucking smooth these animations are when you're switching between bear and werewolf and human? How just instant it is, and just it looks so good. Like they really did a great job on this. It just looks crazy. Like look at this.
Or even alternate
then he
between
pounces.
bear slams and human form mace slams. I'm sure there's a build there. So Wolf form, which already felt really good with its high movement
ready?
speed and attack speed.
Straight from
definitely
human
got
to just
faster and more furious with pounce. Overall, this playstyle is a fairly straightforward melee attacker with some room for some pretty good skill expression, I think, in how well you position and freeze and then swap to shred enemies so that you kind of choose which direction the icicles fly off. I think if you are pretty good at it, you can perform, you know, get a little bit of extra juice out of it. But if you just want to Lunar Assault, freeze everything and just kill them with that, like a freeze cleave build, then you absolutely can, I think. It's not as high single target right away as the full bear form combo, unless you get like really nice shotgunning off.
It's still decent damage though.
But freeze locks down many bosses, and I felt like I was just dismantling any bigger targets, you know. It's like by the time they go to do their first real attack, you freeze them and then they're nearly dead. So a lot of the fights were just kind of over before they began.
Got the Wyvern.
I did dip my toes into the Wyvern form next to mess around with some of their skills a bit off and on. I played with Rolling Magma and Volcano as a kind of ranged Wyvern. Magma Orb bounces also trigger Volcano's projectile pulse.
Oh, wow.
So it's pretty difficult, I think, to position and take full advantage of.
Yeah,
especially if, like, the
I can
enemies
see
are
that.
running at you, for example. Something like Entangle can slow enemies down to help with that, so you can throw down.
That's
some
cool that the
entangles and
bounce triggers it.
and then shoot out some Magma Orbs to do some of that. But it's definitely a more difficult playstyle than what the other ones that I've covered so far offer you at this stage in the early game.
I mean, once you get like multi-shot on, it's shooting 3 fireballs and some other
session.
things.
It's a more complicated form with some very powerful specific elements, but less straightforward lines of play and synergies overall. It's also the one that's probably seeing the most changes from what I played to when it launches. I already know some changes that I'll mention as we go.
I feel like Wyvern's not going to be good till
later,
Act 3 or something.
First little temple foray after my 6th Val sacrifice here.
This place has gone to ruin.
Power blankets this altar.
So the League is introduced to you with a just very simple initial design. You place some basic rooms. It almost doesn't matter where you put these first ones. Later on, where you place them upgrades, but it highlights and makes it super easy to no-brain it if you want. And then you just run that small temple to clear the rooms you placed, leaving whenever you want. You don't have like a specific objective here. You can clear the rooms and you'll get like I believe a portal to send you out of there once you're done with all of the rooms. But basically
Regal
you're just going in there
workbench?
for the actual specific rewards of each room.
Look, it's a Regal workbench.
And that is like a bunch of chests and weapon racks and things that drop gear, or a bunch of crafting benches.
Upgrades of magic equipment item to rare and adding 1 modifier. Well, that's what this is. So I guess if you don't have a Regal, you can just do it. Well, I mean, he's right at the start of the game, so you're not going to have a lot of Regal orbs. So that is really good.
That do things like improve quality, add sockets, let you alch reroll a magic.
I went to rare equipment over the new. Okay, so exalted workbench. Okay, so this provides, especially in the campaign, you with workbenches that if you don't have the currency yet, you can just use these workbenches as the currency. That's actually a good idea. I kind of like that. You're gonna have some good gear early on that if you really hit the temples. This league's gonna be fun, boys. I know it's not the endgame patch, but this temple looks good.
Item, which is really good while leveling, regal, a magic item, exalt, a magic rare item, and so on. So just doing like 1 or 2 of these quick little temple forays each act will give you a pretty decent chunk of gear improvement. I think I did 1 per act. You get a really good amount of items to craft too, but I recommend hanging on to any like specific bases you want to upgrade as you go into one of these. So for example, your next weapon base that you need to craft, you know, you don't have to use crafting currency, you can just go into the temple and make it. Or maybe you like need movement speed boots, so keep a nice pair of boots in your inventory to potentially craft movement speed on. That's how I ended up getting some of my movement speed boots.
That workbench
I've never
do?
had so much like socket speed
What
boots,
that workbench
so keep a
do?
nice pair of boots in your inventory to potentially craft movement speed on. That's how I ended up.
All right, we're gonna slow it down.
Boots in your inventory to potentially craft movement speed on. That's how
Greatly improves the quality of a martial weapon, caster weapon, or armor. Okay. So it's your whetstones.
I ended up getting some of my movement speed boots. I've never had so much like socketed and
Plus
quality
20%
while leveling in Path of Exile 2 as I have with this temple.
Looks so fun.
So after that quick 5-minute temple gearing session, I quickly returned to the cemetery to absolutely embarrass Draven in wolf form. And then I do much the same on Lachlan too, which is often a decent difficulty spike for a lot
Yeah,
of
Lachlan's
builds.
pretty tanky. I mean, it's not bad. I like it. I like it.
Hunting grounds. Best be careful shapeshifting, lest I take an arrow to the arse.
The other set of Wyvern starter abilities is melee with Wing Blast and Wyvern's default attack Rend. So Wing Blast is a bit like Spear's disengage skill. It's a backwards leap that can get you out of harm's way and do some other utility things. But in this case, it also is a large AoE that stuns primed for stun enemies and triggers an extra explosion for some nice kind of like AoE clear on those stunned enemies. It also generates charges on stunning enemies, power charges with a surpassing chance, it's called. You can scale it past 100% for more charges, potentially, for example. That's how that works. And one change that ZiggyD's has already told me about here with the Wyvern is that this skill has been buffed a bit by granting 3 charges now on stunning unique enemies, which is good because I felt like it was difficult to actually use the power charge stuff in boss fights, but having 3 charges means you can get like 15 seconds plus of empowered attacks or something. You can like chain it through the rest of the boss fight. So I could see you kind of just getting 1 stun and then that carrying you through the rest of the boss fight as you expend all of your charges. So that does sound like a nice improvement. So the Rend basic attacks can spend a power charge if you aren't currently buffed to give you a buff with empowered lightning attacks. It gives that skill a much bigger AoE and adds lightning damage. And it does a few other things with a few other skills too. It actually turns it from like a very basic little melee attack into like a pretty hefty, big cleaving skill that does quite a lot of damage. Empowered Rend, it is slow, but it is big and chunky and really satisfying, and I'm really hoping that there's some potential for like melee Rend builds that maintain empowerment with that, because it felt really good when I was cleaving my way through packs with it. Wyvern's early game was definitely the hardest to get the hang of all of the kind of types here.
Now we got
At least
3.
we try to stay purely in Wyvern form, because again, just like you can just use something like Wing Blast alone for a melee escapes skill and then like play your bear build, right? There's no reason you have to kind of like force yourself to stay in any one form if like
So seamless, man. They nailed it.
Still kind of wrapping my head around that. I did also kind of take Wyvern through one of the most difficult areas in the early game here, but once I got through there, the first Spirit Gem gave me options of Savage Fury, which is basically a Druid-like Berserk buff that drains your health for a short boost to speed and damage. It looks very strong for bossing, and it's probably not too hard to manage that life loss as long as you got like a flask charge or something. Probably well worth it, and I expect we'll see some use. Anything that boosts your damage and speed for a duration is usually a popular choice. I didn't get to...
Obviously, this is only level 4. 21% more damage, 32% attack speed, 16% movement speed. Lose 3% of maximum life per second. We can deal with that. But if this... 1 second, if you last 20 seconds, you're looking at 60% of your life gone. I don't know. What's Bark Skin? We got Wolf Pack, Bark Skin. Yeah, it's got to be some sort of shield. Eternal Rage, Feral Invocation, obviously Trinity.
Chest it in this run though, as Spirit Gems are pretty hard to get hold of in the campaign. And I instead went for Briar Patch. So this buff stores some melee physical damage that you deal to enemies to automatically place a Thorny Ground when you next cast a spell. So if you put a volcano down, it'll be surrounded by Thorny Ground, or if you cast like a Lightning Strike or something, it'll be Thorny Ground as well. It's got a built-in delay, but it's super easy to charge up with just like a single pounce on enemies, for example.
That's not bad.
It's pretty low impact overall, though I was thinking that there's probably some good utility supports that can go on there later, especially for plant druid styles. Between Thorny Ground, Volcano, Entangle, and Totem at this point, we have a lot of
spread that AoE out.
We can dump out.
Just slow down enemies. And just
and they scale fine together at this point in the game, right? Like, so there's no real reason to just not go ham and use everything. It's just like throw everything in the kitchen sink at the boss and then go in and bear slam them. You know, you got time often while most bosses are doing some sort of monologue to like pre-place like 4 Entangles, 2 Volcanoes, a Totem, and automatically place down the other Thorny Ground. So you're absolutely going to go that route.
It builds up
The other
quick
notable
too.
spirit gem choice that I passed up earlier was Herald of Ice, and I wasn't able to get my hands on one for the rest of the 3-act session, which is something I wanted to note because it's a bit of a shame because I played it and loved a lot of the wolf form, but I never really felt like I got the full picture of what it plays.
That's
what
fair.
It plays like to clear as an ice wolf, because it feels pretty good, but it was missing a bit of AoE clear. That's the thing it probably struggled with the most. And not having Herald of Ice was like
Herald of Ice
a
would
missing piece of that
make
puzzle.
that so good.
Just keep that in mind as you watch that wolf gameplay in the future. And just mentally add some of your own ice explosions to that gameplay, just to kind of imagine how your werewolf leveling might go. It's already really satisfying, like doing the icicle explosions and freezing things and watching them shatter. I can only imagine with Herald of Ice how satisfying that's going to be. If I go wolf, I'll definitely grab Herald of Ice. For bear, I'd probably grab that Savage Fury. And Briar Patch if I level like a nature style druid, maybe, I don't know. Activating it with Pounce, maybe. I think that's more of a specific build thing. It's nice, but definitely not as impactful as other spirit gem choices.
Fucking him up.
Late Act 1, you start to get your
Bear's
first
looking
weapon set
strong.
passives, and unlike leveling
Oh,
other
oh,
characters,
oh,
I think
what was that? What was that? Hold on. Slow it down. Slow it down, big boy.
Late Act 1, you start to get your first weapon set passive. First weapon set passive.
16% increased skill effect duration, 6% increased stun threat. Okay, so that's stun. That's area of effect.
Unlike leveling other
Increased critical hit chance while shapeshifted. Increased skill speed while shapeshifted.
characters, I think you really want to start taking
Okay, so life regen and damage.
advantage of these.
Damn it.
Right. Taking advantage
Mana regen.
of these right away if you're going spells and shapeshift combo, which are absolute.
3% increased skill speed while shapeshifted.
I think you should. It's super fun. Spells and shapeshift combo, which I absolutely think you should. It's super fun.
20% increased life regeneration rate. 5% of damage taken recouped his life. That's good, and it's right at the beginning. Okay.
So it's pretty simple initially to start doing this. If you've never messed with the weapon set trees, it only really gets confusing when you try to do respecking typically. That's when you kind of got to wrap your head around
8% increased damage. That
just
gives
how it
skill
works.
speed and mana regen?
But initially you can basically just kind of like throw any duration or clearly spell oriented clusters on the staff weapon set, and any shapeshift or survivability nodes or melee damage stuff on the talisman set. I spent and tinkered with these a lot as I went, and it felt like a pretty nice payoff for it. There's like quite a lot of it going on that you can cherry pick between in the druid area of the tree. It makes sense. I think passive tree support is like super important for this sort of like hybrid playstyle, and it's good that that kicks into gear pretty early on if you want it.
Yeah. Yeah, that is good.
For Executioner, I decided to revisit the Bear Slams since they performed pretty well early on. I was keen to see how
Okay.
they were holding up at this point. I had the totem now to add in, and that triggers the jagged ground from the empowered slams to create another explosion for some more bonus combo damage.
You have much to answer for.
Damn, dude. God. That's some fucking strong bears, boy. Holy shit, he wrecked that executioner.
And,
oh my.
Yeah, their form is pretty amazing on bosses.
Holy shit.
Overall, pretty well-rounded. Felt like the most well-rounded of them. Like, powerful single target.
Look at how you just leap across the map.
Maybe a little bit slower, offset by just switching into wolf form. And nice defenses too. Yeah, it's pretty nice. And you know, you can just use that pounce to form shift into wolf and start sprinting when you move between packs. There's no reason why bear has to feel slow when you can instantly shapeshift into a wolf whenever you want. I was really vibing the hybrid wolf bear and human spells. It feels like you get to cherry pick the best parts of every part of these kind of 3 forms and just add them together to create a super build. Feels like cheating a little bit. Adding rage and rapid attacks to maul makes it really quick to generate rage for slams as well, with 3 mauls giving you enough for like 2 slams back to back. And when you start double and triple volcano slamming bosses...
Jesus. No way.
So
it's gonna get nerfed.
Poor Candlemass and indeed poor Geonor. Guy really got outclassed on this whole shapeshifting trope, even after selling his soul for it, right? So
Do
anyway,
you
I don't know
count
if you can hear in the
Gooner?
background, but I have a newborn baby and our family's all sick right now. So I'll end part 1 of this preview here and optimistically hope to be able to get part 2 out before launch if I can. I'll try. Forgive me in advance if it's a bit later or if I can't make it. At times
Hey,
like this,
come
I think
on,
it's
give
best
it to
just
us
celebrate the
tonight,
small
tomorrow.
wins. Like, you know, making a part 1 preview and getting it published. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope that helps a few of you see a bit more of the Druids potentially, you know, the fun that has to offer you if you're a bit unsure based on that initial reveal. I feel like Druid's getting a little bit of a raw deal in the reactions, so maybe do my part just to give you a little bit more of a realistic
Yeah, give us more,
impression as
Zig.
to
Come
what it
on,
looks
man.
like. Anyway, folks,
Look
that's
at
it for
that.
now. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.
It's so strong, man. Oh my God. Look, I still want to start Merc. Because I know, especially now, people are going to change their mind on Druid. But holy shit, that looks good. That looks so good. It looks fun. And that's just Act 1. Holy shit, man. I don't know, boys. Do we start Druid? Has this changed your mind? Dude, like I said, I'm not subscribed to Ziggy. Excuse me? Wild. Why? Oh, you know why? Because I'm always watching on the TV and it's my girlfriend's account. That's why. Anyway, yeah, give him a sub, give him a thumbs up, leave him a comment. I gave this 6 hours ago. I don't know, man. I know everybody, you know, gear's going to be expensive. Everybody's going to be doing it. What a showcase. I mean, that's got me sold. Anyway, holy shit. Amazing. Amazing. That's what we need to see. Anyway, you know the drill. Check out our other videos. I got a league starter for Mercenary. I got, I'm working on updating my other builds. They all still viable. Nothing's changed. We'll see what happens with the new passive tree nodes and see if we can, you know, change some things and go from there. But I will be live Friday, probably an hour or 2 before league launch, and we'll be live all weekend. All right, no live streams until then because I got to work my ass off to make some extra money so I can take the weekend off. But I'll be there. So anyway, subscribe, come back, see you on the next one.